Welcome one, welcome all to episode 263 of the Xbox Expansion Pass, recorded on Saturday, February 15th, 2025. I'm your host, Luke Lohr, the InsipidGhost, joined by my co-host, the intrepid Captain Logun. Today, we'll be offering an Avowed review roundup. We'll be chatting about Jez Corden's recently published article discussing the greenlit new Xbox hardware, and we'll be diving into South of Midnight previews, all that, and a PlayStation State of Play to talk about. Logan, we like to start the show by offering words of kindness to those who have made our gaming weeks better. But first, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's I've been on a journey, believe it or not. And I've been venturing out into the world and discovering new races and new people to talk with. It wasn't just going to the trash can to drop off recycling. It was also going to the mailbox and finding people there. But no, I've been having a good week. I'm spending a lot of time in Avowed and just kind of living in the living lands. How about you? How's your week been?
It's been a good week. I spent the morning on TKO Asante's show, which I enjoyed. And I know you hung out with the Nerd Chat recently this past week. We put out a lot of content lately, man, from hardware reviews to game reviews, game previews, more previews on the way. We've been working hard for XEP, man. And I feel like you talked about it. You alluded to your personal life last week, but I feel like you've turned a corner lately. You seem more like you than I've seen you in months.
Well, the nice thing is that I'm now 2 weeks into living on my own in my own place. So I don't have any roommates. So I'm able to just kind of like, I've been going through and like when you go to like conventions, I go to conventions and I go to buy like a lot of artwork and I get that artwork framed and then I hang up that artwork and my walls just have like artwork that I have. Like it's just something that kind of like helps with people have statues, people have pop art and stuff like that. Mine are all like signed picture frames. So I just got like my little Illidan Storm Rage artwork that I just got signed.
What is Storm Rage?
Huh?
What is that? What is
Illidan? Illidan Storm Rage is he's voiced by Liam O'Brien, of anyone that watches Critical Role. But he's like one of the main anti-heroes in World of Warcraft and has been since like 2004 when World of Warcraft came out, but also like he's been in the game since like 1996 when like Warcraft 3 came out. But it's like it feels nice to like check off the dealing with roommate thing and not have that on my plate anymore. Like things with relationships and like working on a divorce and stuff like that. Things have kind of calmed down in my personal life with work and whatnot. So now that I've like been able to steady on, I've been able to like focus more on like gaming and reviews and actually just enjoying my time in the afternoons as opposed to just being stressed all the time. So that's been huge. That's been really, really big. How about you?
Gotcha. No, that's cool, man. What was the question?
Sick. Everyone is sick at schools and stuff. So I'm curious how you're doing.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of kids out with the flu and other illnesses. I'm doing well. I'm really glad to get the Avowed content out that we did. That was weighing on me to get the Avowed interview plus the review out. Was a big deal for me. That's actually my words of kindness this week, is to thank everybody that watched it and shared it. People that clicked like, put time into putting comments on it, because truth be told, that was the biggest XEP project in terms of time and effort. Maybe not effort, time and work to put out there, right? The amount of time to secure the content for it, to play the game, capture the footage, edit it together, write the script, all of that. That is the hardest I have worked on a singular, like, solitary project for XEP. Which was, so it was really nice to see it go out there. I made the mistake of, and I know every content creator has done this at some point, looking at other people's reviews, and they're in like the 200,000s, and I'm like, But at the same time, I had such a good time doing the review. The people that have left comments have been so supportive and kind that, like, my cup is full. And I'm really proud of the fact that my cup is full because it didn't land the retweets from the big execs and kind of stuff, but like real talk, like the people that cared and watched it really did watch it, and that was really fun for me. And I truly loved the game. And I will plug briefly. We are having this Monday night. So if you're listening live or on VOD, Monday the 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, Ty Guy Travis and Randolph Thor 19, possibly one other, but those are my two confirmed, are joining us for a spoiler cast of Avowed.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that, Logan, because Travis gave it a 7 for IGN.
Mhm.
I am significantly higher on it than that game, but I really enjoy like Travis's. He brings logic to every discussion. It's not like a silly argument. And so looking forward to having a spoiler cast about that because we've all been playing it and it's been fun. And I think our audience will enjoy it when they get to it, right? Like nobody needs to watch it right away. It's a spoiler cast, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm glad that you got the review done. I really enjoyed your perspective on it. I think it was unique compared to other people's perspectives. I think I'll shout out Bitcast, Season Gaming. Their review for Avowed delved deeper into the Pillars franchise as kind of a backbone for their review, which I thought I really appreciated because it brought a history from the franchise that I'd never like played around with.
That was Don Lionheart that did the review for them, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, Don did it.
He's a big Pillars fan.
Yeah, and it shows. It shows. There's a lot of love put into that review, and still like surprisingly like short. I was expecting like as soon as you started going into the lore aspect, I was like, oh god, this is going to be a 30-minute video at least. And he still kept it within like 17 or 18 minutes. I was like, wow, dang, and he covered a lot. So definitely been checking out a lot of people's coverage of it. I haven't watched Travis's yet because I want to finish the game before I listen to his perspective because knowing Travis and how he goes into his reviews, he has reasons for everything that he says, and I want to go into it with having finished the game and being like, okay, I know I've had the full breadth of the game now. Now I want to understand where his perspective lies, so that going into the spoiler cast, I can have like a proper discussion with him if my viewpoints change or align with his, that kind of a thing. But yeah, it was really cool to see like so many people's coverage, and just know that we had that opportunity as well too.
Agreed. In chat here, good morning Nerd Chat, good morning A-Chick, good morning Silkenit, Nisa Hauer in here with us hanging out. Bacon asking like spoiler cast this early gives a chance to play it. Yeah, truly it's a matter of timing for us because we have several other big projects that are just kind of showing up, but also like the nice thing about a spoiler cast is it lives forever, so people can put it in their saved later, go watch it when they're ready to hear how we are fresh off the take, because that is just how it kind of worked out. And I sometimes get stuck in I want to talk about this game right now, but then once other things happen, because I'm reviewing or playing a big game for coverage right now, I don't know if I'll make a video on it. I'm not sure I'm qualified for it, despite my putting time into it. But like, I don't want to be so far removed from my experience with Avowed that I don't have a lot to offer a spoiler cast. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I want to record it when I'm fresh off of it, and I still remember pronouns and like aspects of it, because I know as soon as the next game comes in, all that's getting wiped. And I start, it's like the Winter Soldier. I just they rip out all those memories, and then they put me back to sleep until the next release comes out, and then I'm ready to jump back in with a clean slate, going to murder whoever I have to murder.
Yeah. Big shout out to Addy Zero for the super chat today. Thank you, my friend. Really do appreciate it. Humbled by anytime anyone gives anything. It's always appreciated, my friend. Thank you. He just says salute, Addy Zero. It's good to see you, my friend. Happy Saturday to you. I will say, as far as Avowed goes, because our topic is Avowed's review roundup first to start off, and I do want to dive into that. But I will say it's been fun for me in the last 6 months of gaming. I've learned VR. I've learned about handhelds and Steam Decks and gotten to understand this world. I've played more games outside of my standard genres. Avowed itself is an Obsidian game. This was my first Obsidian game, and I'm finding joy in that. And so I've really had a blast in the last 6 months, opening my mind to different genres that I wouldn't say I wasn't open to before, but didn't enjoy. A good example, also Marvel Rivals, I talk about a lot. I never liked Overwatch. I played Paladins, but like even then I didn't. It wasn't a nightly thing, right? I loved Paladins, but like it's the same formula. But at Marvel Rivals has just got a depth to it that is betrayed by its, Marvel IP, and it looks like Overwatch. But once you dive in, there's a depth to it that is unseen. And so as we've gone through Ranked, I've learned that. And so going through Avowed to loop it into our reviews, it has been really fun to learn what an Obsidian game looks like, why they're highly regarded, to enjoy the aspects that they are not widely regarded for. Because for me, I loved the combat of Avowed. And that's not always what people go to Obsidian for. They go for the writing, which was also something I greatly enjoyed. I'm going to give the review roundup real quick, Logan, and then we'll kind of dive into some thoughts. We won't do our spoiler cast or just anything like that here. And I would encourage people to go watch my review of it, and then we'll talk. So Xbox Era gave this game an 8.8, Seasoned Gaming an 8.5, Friends at Windows Central a 4.5, VGC, sorry, not 4.5, let me back up. I misspoke. Windows Central a 4 out of 5, very big difference there. VGC a 4 out of 5, Eurogamer a 4 out of 5, Games Radar 4 out of 5, IGN a 7, Game Rant a 7, GameSpot a 6. The Metacritic at the time I pulled them, 79, OpenCritic 82. Interesting to me to see the gambit run from roughly 9s down to roughly 6s and everywhere in between. Logan, were you surprised to see these numbers come out? Given how much time have you put in?
I checked last night when I logged off. It was like 11:30 midnight, and I put my save file in, and I was like, I really want to go finish this next part of the quest, but I know if I don't get a good night's sleep, I am going to hurt in the morning. So when I logged off, I had just turned over 40 hours. Or no, sorry, 40. I think it's 40 hours. Now I got to check because it's either 40 or 48.
When we talked to Jesse last week, he, for his review, had put in 47 reviews. I'm also pulling out mine right now. Sorry, 47 hours. I apologize. I'm doing 3 things at once, actually.
I know the feel. Yeah, I've got 48 hours, 24 minutes played time. 2 days, 24 minutes.
I'm at 49 hours, so very much in the same vein. Certainly not a game where you can get a lot of achievements fast. That's for sure.
I have like 11. Dude, I was looking at the achievement list for this, and I'm like, they want me to go against my character. Like I'm looking for like there's little things that you have to do in dialogue, and I'm like, that's not me. Who can I screw over? Who do I not care about when it comes to certain things? Because that's the paragon in me wants to just be nice and help everyone else. But the achievements on me are like, I'm just gonna go and be a real jerk. I'm gonna be a real and I'm like, I don't know if I want to play that way, but maybe on a different playthrough. I don't know. But I'm also 48 hours in, and I'm thinking like, dude, do I have time to jump into another playthrough of this?
I don't have it in my emotional fortitude to be mean to characters. I don't even like being mean to real people, even when I strongly dislike them. I can be, right, but like, I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. And so like even in a game, it's like they incentivize you to play different ways via achievements, like any game would. But like resort to violence, I don't wanna. I love fighting in the game. Like I don't want to resort to violence if I can be diplomatic. I grew up on Star Trek, man. Diplomacy first.
There are some good encounters where and this is I would guess it's not really a spoiler because they give you the whole gambit of like what you can actually like do with your dialogue, but there's always an option, just be like, I'm gonna attack you. And then there's some times where like that actually feels justified. So I definitely appreciate that. But looking at the scores and seeing just we're seeing 9s all the way down to 6s. I don't see where the 6s are coming in because I haven't read any reviews that have been below like an 8 or a 7. So, and I get like the 7s if you're working on like a 10-point scale, but a 6 just feels really low. Like to me, a 6 doesn't, like I would expect a lot of technical hiccups with this game. to justify a 6. And that just has not been my experience so far.
It was so for this particular review, there was the ability to speak with others who were reviewing it, and that was kind of allowed and encouraged to help, to talk to Obsidian through your process, right? So that make sure you gave an accurate review of what was going on. And I know that people on PC were having more hiccups than I was having on Xbox Series X. Not a single crash in my near 50 hours, not a single crash. I had some lighting hiccups, which I mentioned briefly in the review.
Yeah.
And even in the day one, not the day one, the day -3, because it's early access and it's day one with Game Pass, or whatever.
It's day one for rich people.
Day one for rich people.
For the privileged. Day one for privileged.
I will say I'm privileged. Rich is hardly the case. Although last week I did buy eggs, so I am in the upper class.
I knew it was Valentine's Day coming up. I didn't realize we were slamming Easter and Valentine's Day gifts into the same bucket.
People are going to start painting sweet potatoes and hiding those in the yard for their kids.
Sweet potatoes actually pretty good.
So as far as technical stuff, I did not have a lot of technical hiccups. As far as crashes are concerned, a few lighting things here and there. I had one bounty mission. I cannot finish it, even though they fixed it in the patch, the not day one patch kind of thing. They did fix that one, but I would lose 35 hours to go back. And so I do this thing where I'm going back because I'm going in just because I love playing the game. And it's not even going to get me an achievement. I'm going and trying to find like little treasures and finish the treasure maps and stuff. And I'll go back to that area just to see if that little bounty thing is there on the ground now. And it's never there. It's never there.
See, I ran into a similar issue.
You saved scummed it to fix it, right?
Yeah. I was like, and I was playing through it, and for whatever reason, the mob that I killed for the bounty glitched into the ground. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I can't grab it. I can't like squat down and grab it. So I looked at my saves, and I've set the saves up in the game to auto save every 2 minutes. So I was like going back down the list of like auto saves and manual saves and being like, okay, is this one far enough back? No. Is this one far enough back? No. Is this one far enough back? I went about 10 minutes back, which was right before the fight. And I played through the fight. I played through the fight a little bit differently than I did originally, and I actually enjoyed it the second time through because I kind of knew what to expect. And after that, I was like, oh, item looted, bounty done, totally fine. And I was like, this is why I think I like when you can kind of go back and save scum, like some of those things. I don't do it really for like dialogue choices, but when there's like a weird glitch where it's just how something happens in the world and you're just like, that isn't the intended playthrough. Like I'm just gonna drop back 2 to 4 minutes and play it through and see if that fixes it.
I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but like I was like, no, I want my review experience to be fully authentic to what happened. So I didn't do that. Yeah. And I fully regret that decision. Oh man, this thing won't go away. I'm never gonna get that achievement. It's like,
yeah.
So that is.
I'm curious, dude. Looking at the kind of like the overwhelming like praise for this game. I'm curious, like
not overwhelming.
Not overwhelming. Okay, I'll take that back. I think it's overwhelming praise. But looking at how this game is played out, do you think that this game will be better regarded than Starfield?
Oh, absolutely. Bar none. Bar none, this game is a better experience than Starfield. And I love Starfield, but supremely flawed is that experience. Nobody got it. No one was even interested in it, Logan, but I kept telling our Discord that I put a Starfield joke in my review, and everyone just like glossed over it and started talking about something else like 5 times over because no one really cared.
No one knew.
It was meant to be subtle. I think it was too subtle. But if you go to the 8-minute and 30-second mark of my review, I talked about how something Obsidian does really well is like they focus their game, right?
Yeah.
It's not bigger is better and bloated is better. And it's not a feature creep thing. Like they curate your experience. Everywhere you go in this game, if you're searching, you'll discover, and that's a really cool thing. Whether if it's a discovery, it's a traversal, discovery, combat, traversal, discovery, combat type of loop, and everything is curated, so you don't feel like you're just wasting your time. But at that point in the review, when I said something like that, I had my character look right up at a starfield and just stay on it for a second. And I was so proud of that joke. Not a single person commented on it. And I was just like, oh.
I legit thought that you were like talking about the Great Expanse or something like towards the end of the I was like, is that the joke? I don't get it.
He's like, he's not funny. He thinks he's funny. He's not.
No. It's interesting that you bring up the sense of discovery with Avowed and wandering around gives you a sense of discovery and rewards you for that, even if it's just something little, even if it's just a backpack that you find that has some materials in it, a little bit of coin, some upgrade materials. I even like that some of the backpacks are even called out like, I can't believe that idiot left this back. I'm just going to put it back behind the building with a beam over it so that he knows where it's at or that it doesn't get lost and stuff. And I'm so many people leaving backpacks around. But it is one of those things that I really enjoyed about this game in the same way that I liked about Hogwarts Legacy, in the same way that I liked about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The sense of exploration was rewarded. Now, it's not going to be something that you have to like checkbox off, but every time I went somewhere to go check out and see like where there was an area or to like uncover the map, because there's a fog of war on the map. And every time you move into an area, it reveals a little bit of that area in the map. And knowing that I could like systematically scrub through the map and move to like all the different areas and find something in those areas and kind of discovering the borders of the zone was so nice to know. Like if I wanted to open up the map fully, every time I went to a different section, I could anticipate there being something and I could generally guess what it was based on the geometry. Like if there was like a couple little steps up in a high spot, chances are there's probably going to be something up there. And sure enough, there's usually something up there.
When you were a guest on Nerd Chat this week, you described it as the like, if there's a waterfall, there'll be something behind the waterfall.
Yeah.
And that is the perfect analogy because there's always something. It may be amazing. It may be something small, but you're getting something for your time. Yeah. And that is absent from a lot of RPGs nowadays. And so that's why I just hold this one in such high regard. I think when I look at the review roundup and I see the 6s and 7s, I don't agree with them in any way in terms of like how much they knocked off their rating for qualms. But the general qualm was that there wasn't a ton of enemy variety. A fair point, but I was unbothered by it. And there is a lack of, I guess you would say, scale in terms of big bads that you fight with. And I think that's a fair thing also. So what that means is because of that lack of like big bads getting bigger and more unique is you get a repetitive nature. Yeah. And that's a fair qualm, but I certainly didn't find it to be a huge detriment to my experience. And so I do hope people go check out the review. I hope people, whenever they're praising or condemning a review for anybody, whether it's the 6 at GameSpot, which I think is very low, or the people that are giving it 10 out of 10s. I think Console Creature gave it that. Our friends at Console Creature, I don't remember who reviewed it there. I think it's a little too high, right? But read what they have to say or listen to what they have to say for why before starting to be grumpy about it. You know what I mean? Because that matters. That matters, I think. And what bothers some may not bother others, etc. And so nonetheless, I really enjoyed my time with Avowed. I'm very proud of the interview, very proud of the review, very excited for our spoiler cast. I think the next thing I want to kind of bring us to, if after your final thoughts on Avowed, is what's going to happen for Xbox after, because South of Midnight is on the horizon. You had a state of play that was full of Xbox games, and Doom is further out in our year. And so if there are any other closing thoughts you have on Avowed prior to our spoiler cast, what might they be?
Yeah, I think what Avowed does really well is it takes people who may not necessarily be associated with the Pillars of Eternity franchise. It gives you like a little bit of a background, like a Wikipedia built into the game to help you understand like pronouns and things like that when they talk about things, or even just slang terms that give you like little little bits of information on that. But the combat is what really drives some of the interest in here. And I've been surprised watching through a lot of the playthroughs and reviews that so many people seem to land on using the same electric pistol that
Early on, Xerox
one
Pride.
of the early ones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting to see how a lot of people kind of found that same pistol and started to continue to use that one. I think overall, the game has a few flaws where some of the characters that you interact with don't emote nearly as naturally as I would expect out of like a Cyberpunk or a GTA. The gear system could use with a little bit of a boost in materials just to make it a little bit easier to kind of get more sets up. But play this game in a way, and I would urge anyone that's jumping into it, play this game in a way that makes you feel like you are on an adventure. Don't feel like you have to golden path this. Don't feel like you need to also go and uncover every single bit of the world. Yes, you'll be rewarded for that. It won't necessarily be a big reward, but go to places that look interesting and feel free to wander around and not necessarily go from marker to marker, because that's where I think a lot of people are going to discover cute little things in the world that the developers put in, and even run into some characters that you might not have expected to be there. So explore, enjoy it. If you feel like things are a little too easy, there is a difficulty slider. If you feel like things are getting too repetitive, switch up your build. If you feel like you're not quite sure what's going on, hit the button that tells you a little bit of the history of the game and just enjoy your time. I took 19 hours in the first zone. I'm into the third zone now, and I'm just hitting 48 hours. And now I'm starting to feel like I'm pushing myself to work a little bit quicker instead of like scouring every little area. But take your time with it. Enjoy it. It's just like with Indiana Jones. It's a joy to live in this world. And I think more people should kind of jump into this, because there's other games like Immortals of Avium that do the exact same thing, but don't get the credit because it's not a big studio or an IP.
Right. Silkenit saying his material problem went away when he found the dismantle trash or trash gear button. Yeah. That is very much there. But like, because the menu is a lot happening, that can be kind of out of the way. I will tell you guys, use those treasure maps. That's a little handy dandy tip for you, because they will take you to some wonderful uniques. The uniques in this game are genuinely great. I believe Sam Haney from IGN was on Project X Talk, making sure I get my memory right there. And he said the same thing. I fully agree with him. The uniques in the game are really cool.
Also, vendors, like I got a fair amount of gold and stuff like that. You can buy materials. You can also buy like gear that they have and dismantle that gear as well too. There's lots of ways to get upgrade materials in the game, since some of the criticisms have been around like how hard it is to get stuff like that. I've literally got my inventory pared down to just the 2 sets of weapons, just my 1 armor type, and then a fair amount of like gloves and boots, rings, and amulets, because those don't have any weight and you can't break them down. But everything else is scrapped or sold. And all of that just gets funneled into my gear set, because that's my character, that's my playthrough, that's how I want to go. And I have my stuff even up to legendary at this point. And I haven't like I haven't like got it fully kitted out, but I'm further ahead than what I think they expect me to be at.
Sure. I'm anxious to talk about end game and late game stuff in our spoiler cast, because there's some things that red flagged is not the right word, but they flagged for me, and it's like, ooh, I see X or Y, and I want to talk about that. So
yeah.
So Logan, let's transition now to talk about after Avowed. And I see Dark Saturn's question here. We'll loop back to that one. After Avowed, now that Avowed is out or about to be out, depending on perspective here, the next game from Xbox will be South of Midnight, which previews went out this past week. In large part, the previews were fairly positive. A lot of people seeming to like it, but be cautious and wary of repetitive nature, scope and scale. Jam Pack Sam got to play it. I'm envious of him. you and I did not preview it, but in large part, it's a repetitive platforming combat game that has a brilliant art style. That is the impression I got in trying to consume all of these previews. Was that your take as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's the combat is going to be something that's akin to Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, God of War, something in that venue. There's going to be
God of
like
War pre 2018.
I would say like post 2018, where
Okay.
you have like little battle arenas and you have like varieties of enemies that take different ways to have to try and deal with them.
Okay.
And your arsenal is going to be something that determines how you have to take out each type of enemy. I very much see that in South of Midnight, and I think that a lot of folks are looking at this and thinking that, again, similar to Hellblade 2, this is going to be a huge studio project, and this is a much smaller studio, so their scope and their abilities are going to be truncated by like just how many people they have working on it. So looking at the previews, it really did just kind of reaffirm, like, I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be an amazing story, and I can't wait to kind of get into it from start to finish and find out, like, will Hazel find her mom? Like, will she be able to have that kind of reconciliation? Will the story that she discovers as she's kind of going through help develop her as a character to maybe be more empathetic to what her needs are, or what her mom's needs are, or the people around her mom that need her help as well? Things like that are all going to be great, but you throw on all of these cryptids, all these kind of southern mythologies into this world, and I'm like, dude, this just seems like a really awesome game. Like, it's a cool concept, it's an awesome art style. I'm here for the combat. I think this is going to be really good, but I can understand some people are going, it's going to, connect with some people and it won't with others.
I well said, mind you. I did not get the God of War 2018 style vibe combat look. It looked to me in watching it that it was more like older PS2 360 era combat, like jump platform, go to the area, fight. The fighting looked very basic from what I saw. And every preview only played level 3 of the game. I watched Xbox Era's coverage, Jam-Pack Sam's, and a couple others. I loved it. I was like, yes, that's what I want. I will turn off stop motion immediately just because that bothers me. But then, like, I loved the art as well. Hazel seems like a compelling character. The cryptids, to your point, like, it was really cool to see like the different monsters that are going on there. Big Mad Mo in chat saying it's like Kenna, Bridge of Spirits. I see that comparison as well. Yeah. I'm here for this one. Like, I'm really excited for South of Midnight. I hope that it is embraced. I hope that it's embraced for what it is. That's kind of where I go back to like the review from GameSpot giving Avowed a 6, Travis saying it's a 7. Proper qualms can be had, but I wonder if like maybe they were wanting something that the game isn't, and I don't know. That's a interesting thing. And so I hope that when people check out South of Midnight, they go into it knowing what the game is intending to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is a discussion that I've been seeing around, and we can kind of loop this back into Dark Saturn's question here. Having a review, in my mind, when I try to review a game, I try to review a game based on what it is and not what I'm expecting the game to be, because I think that that's where a lot of people tend to push their and I think this is why we kind of disagreed on your review of Kill the Justice League and what you wanted the game to be versus what the game actually was.
Stupid ass game.
But I think that's one of those situations where when I look at a game, I want to look at it. I want to look at the game as this is what the game is, and do they accomplish what they set out to do? Instead of looking at a game and saying, this is not exactly what I wanted from the game, and I'm going to knock it because of that. And I think that that's a really hard thing when you're trying to throw a review score on something like this, because review scores, depending on like what your scale is, can really hinder or harm like the overall score for a game when you actually do some of these reviews and stuff. So let's get into the question with Dark Saturn. Dark Saturn says, I have a question for the show. I know you guys don't do numbers, but for the number system, do you think half points would make things easier on reviewers or harder on reviewers? And the discussion here is based on a lot of 10-point scales. A lot of people go with whole numbers, which is just 10 full points, 1 through 10. There are other outlets that will do a point scale system, which if you go with like a 0.5 scale system, so like a 7.5 or an 8.5 or a 9.5, you're technically going off of a 20-point scale. And if you go back to say like IGN before they amended their skill point system, they would operate on a 100-point scale system where their scores were like a 7.8 or a 7.9 or an 8.1. And
I believe Xbox Era operates that way as well.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of folks, it really does come down to how do you break up those points? Do you associate those points and their weights to them to different aspects of the game? Are there like 10 points in a 100-point scale for art? Is there another 10 points for music? Is there another 10 points for combat? Is there another 10 points for narrative? Is there another 10 points for bugs and technical quality? You know, like depending on how you rate your game is always going to impact it. So I think having a pure 10-point scale does limit where you fall in that world. Or, you know, like if you wanted to give it an 8, but you just didn't quite feel like it was 8 and you wanted to drop it down to a 7 is going to look a lot worse than an 8 will for more people, even if it was technically a high 7. So I generally don't like half-point systems, but I'm also not a huge fan of when people say like, oh, well, this is a 7.5. It's like, okay, well, if you're going with a 7.5, why not just bump it up to a 20-point system and use more granular numbers? But then again, I also see the argument. Luke, could you tell me what the difference between like an 8.1 and an 8.3 is on a game?
No, actually, and I don't like I'm a big fan of the 0.5 system. I love a good half point because I think it helps with clarity and saying like, is this so on many scales, 7 is good, 8 is great. This game's really good at some things, almost great depending on perspective. I love it. That's what 7.5 is to me. But when I see a 100-point scale where it's like an 8.8, which is what Xbox Era gave Avowed, and that's what Xbox Era is currently using. I don't like that. What's an 8.8 versus an 8.6? Very granular element here. And so that's where I tend to fall in line. Now, some of these sites, and we had Jesse from Xbox Era on last week, gave great perspective on everything except for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That was a terrible take. But I didn't argue with him. I'm just kidding. I love Jesse. He's one of the people that helps me on so many things. But I get very bummed when I hear that websites that are curating for Metacritic or OpenCritic find themselves put in a predicament where they either are incentivized to use a certain scale because it matches that critic scale a certain way, or they have to, or they stick by their numbers. Like a 5-star system, 3 out of 5 stars is very good on a 3 out of 5. It's a good number, but that translates to a 60, not a good thing, right? Like those things are not 1-to-1. And so I'm a big fan of the 0.5 because it shows that, hey, this is better than just good, but you're not quite there. But I'm not trying to granularly say, well, 74 and 76. And then, you know, somebody comes up, wait, you're saying his is better than mine, but by 2 points, what's the difference? And so that's where I get a little frustrated. I also find, I mean, the nature of reviews is that they are opinions. There's no way around that. I get trigger is not the right word, but I want to say it was our friend Bubble Boy from Nerd Chat, but I cannot remember for sure. The idea of someone giving an objective review, like I want to be objective about this, that doesn't exist. That's not a thing. You can objectively compare and contrast, Does this feature offered? Is this feature not offered? Is this present here? Is this not present here? But your opinion cannot be objective. It cannot be unbiased by nature. You can attempt to be, but the idea of an objective review is completely null when you're talking about art, and that's what games are.
Yeah, it's really tough to say. Like, my experience with Avowed has been almost flawless when it comes to performance, but that's just my playthrough, and that's just in a vacuum. So if it comes down to like how stable is this game, I'm going to rate it really high because that was my personal experience. But if I'm looking at the game from someone else's perspective who had multiple crashes and had bugged quests and things like that, they're going to rate it low. So it's really always going to come down to personal experience in the little vacuum that you have. And that's why sometimes it's hard as reviewers, because so many times we're under NDA and we're not allowed to just talk about the games in general. So when you come out with your review, sometimes you're coming out with your review hoping that you nailed it as far as like where your experience was compared to other people, because you want to know that you were kind of in that sense where you ran into the same issues or you had the same experience, and you're not the weird outlier that's either super high or super low. But if you are, then hopefully you can at least like justify that stuff. I know historically, Fran Mirabella, formerly of IGN, now kind of funny in his own thing, used to get tons and tons of hate mail for his review of Mario Kart Double Dash, which came in at a 7.9. And so many people used to give him flack because it was not an 8. And why couldn't it have just gotten the 0.1 bump to make a Nintendo game, a Mario Kart game, an 8? And it's hard when you have to justify that kind of stuff, which is why if you're going to have a scale, even if it's a whole number scale, if it's a 20-point scale on a 10-point like half point system, or 100 points on a 10-point system, as long as you can justify it with your experience and speak to why things didn't like go as well as you'd hope them to, or better than expected, then I don't necessarily think it should matter if you're on a 0.5 scale. I just hate when outlets go with a 10-point scale and then don't indicate that there's a 0.5 system in there. Like, so many times I see people, they're like 8 is great, 7 is good, 6 is okay, 5 is mediocre, and they don't say like there's a 0.5 system in there. So they're like, well, this is a 7.5, and I'm like, okay, well, your scale is 1 to 10, so help me understand this.
I'm seeing Bacon in chat saying IGN gave Concord a 7. Let that sink in. Nisa saying that was Travis once again. Travis justifies a lot of his stuff. And I say that knowing Travis, for any listener that's unaware. Like, I get to interact with Travis often. I hear the argument often that negativity brings views and clicks. I see that argument actually as well. I looked at a lot of the reviews that hit 200K in a day, right? And I was just like, man, I'm glad I hit 500, but I love the game, and they did not. And I see that too, but I don't think that's always a pair. Like, that's not always a oh my goodness, I'm forgetting my word. Causality. It's not a causality. That's not right. But my point is, it's not always a parallel one-to-one thing. I think there's a lot of pressure on reviewers. I often myself worry about being the outlier because, I got to bump elbows sometimes with the greats. There were names in that in a correlation. Thank you so much, Nerd Chat. That was the exact word I needed. That's probably Jose there. There's not always a correlation there, but I was so grateful for the other people that I was able to interact with during the review process, because I try very hard to let audiences know at the very beginning of my review where I'm coming from. When I talk about what I enjoy in a product, in a game, here's what I want out of it. Here's what I got. Like, the combat was the driving force for me in Avowed, but it doesn't have to be for you. That's an exact line that I said, very much said, made clear that I said, wrote it in the script, made sure I said it, because that's what I enjoy in a game. But Avowed can be all dialogue and diplomacy for a lot of people if they want it to be. And so I think it's important to let people know where you're coming from and what perspective you're bringing to it. And the number system can be diminutive, but it can also be very helpful. Concord getting a 7, like Concord, I never played it. I can't speak to it. I know that when I looked at it, I was like, gross, don't want, do not want for 1,000 reasons, right? When I look at what's one that's getting crucified right now? Dragon Age. A lot of people talking about Dragon Age. It's expectations versus where it's landing, critical reviews versus what people are loving. My buddy Kev absolutely adores Dragon Age. Said it was a great game. He said everything I said about Avowed, I could say about Dragon Age. That makes me want to play it. Cool, but it's not doing super well, right? Sometimes the diminutive, like when you reduce a game to a number, it takes away from the spirit of it. And I see that in education all the time. I'm very disappointed with a lot of the adults I work with right now. And I know that I'm publicly saying that, but like they're reducing people to numbers right now. You know, like this score means this person. That's not good. That's not good enough. I expect more of them. And I wish I could expect more from consumers, but I don't think that's a fair thing also. So.
Yeah. I wanted to bring this up because I know that a lot of folks, we have been discussing like numbers and stuff, and I think Travis does get a lot of unnecessary hate for his reviews because he tends to judge games pretty sternly or like harshly, and I think that's because he has expectations.
He deserves the hate. He deserves the hate. I'm okay with it.
I think there's I would say like there's extremists that go a little too far.
Screw those guys. Yeah.
I think people can disagree with him. I don't think he needs to get hate for his review because it is just an opinion. And I would hate for us to get hate for sharing our opinions when we feel justified in them as well too. But the comments have been showing up that he was going between a 7 and an 8 for Avowed. And as much as I appreciate like his, him coming out and saying that, at the end of the day, if you're going to say that, you have to understand like it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the score has a 7, and
correct.
People are going to judge it based off of the 7, not the 7 or 8 that was kind of going back and forth, which is why I think there's the discussion about going on the half point system. But if you're going to have to make a call, you have to make that call. It was either great or it was good. And and for Travis, it was just good. But I think I would land higher than that at the moment, but I'm still also working my way through the game. I anticipate I will probably end up having to put about 60 hours into this before I finish it.
To me, you're on the high end of the amount of hours you need to make that judgment call because you are going so intentionally slowly. I'm very anxious for you to finish the game because I want to talk about that end game run.
Yeah. I can kind of see like where the story has been going that will craft what the ending will be. Very much in the same way I think that Obsidian does really well with their games when it comes to that kind of dialogue choices and stuff.
James Suddy absolutely making my day here. He drops a very generous $25 super chat. Thank you so much. We are humbled. He says, let's get these fine gentlemen to Summer Game Fest. We would love, that's a great place for us to say any one of your financial contributions we are humbled and appreciative of, and it does help us get to Summer Game Fest. It does help us bring content to the channel, and we have been working very hard to do that. And I really thank you, Suddy. Thank you sincerely. It really does help. I know we're buddies and we play together, but it matters and it helps. So thank you. In lieu of financial contributions, anyone hitting that like button or sharing also helps a great deal as well. And we appreciate you. Suddy, I saw you shared on socials, the Avowed review. Thank you again. I appreciate you. Logan, I'd like to read our patrons this week, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Those of you that have chosen to support XEP over on patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass, we greatly appreciate you. Also, you are helping us get to Summer Game Fest. You are helping us get to the Summer Showcase. Didn't hit the wrong button there. Sorry about that. I am going to read off the tier 2 and 3 subs here. So I want to give a thank you and a shout out to Fado, Aaron G, Nick Bentley, The Scarecrow, Ken Rossing, Fabian Winkler, Stephen H, Edward, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Rob Frawley II, Tao Zochi, Randall Thor 19, Hafrican, Game Positive, Jam Pack Sam, Rick Davis, Matt Valdez, Red Beast, Dano12, DJ Hero, Brendan Myers, aka The Winter Gamer, the aforementioned Lord Sir Master James Suddy, and Sony's VP of Marketing, Kevin Butler. Thank you guys for supporting us. We greatly appreciate you. You can go to patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass if you are willing to help us out. Thank you guys so much. All right, Logan. I think we've been polite. We've been polite thus far. X Bacon Gaming's in the chat. He's asking us to talk about it. I know people want to talk about it. Sony had a state of play this past week, nestled right there in between Avowed embargoes, lifting, Avowed interviews going out with developers, as well as South of Midnight previews. This Sony state of play came out. Boy, there was a lot of Xbox games in there. I don't think that is a problem inherently for a showcase. I think as a showcase goes, that's fantastic. I think the problem was that it was a Sony state of play, and people have a lot of thoughts on that. I think Sony's struggling right now in terms of getting games out, but as far as showcases go, there's stuff there. So what you got? Talk to me.
Struggling, buddy.
Well, here's why. We often dismiss and forget Concord and Astrobot both came out. Now, Concord died a gruesome death, deservedly so, in terms of like what players were seemingly wanting. That is not a DEI conversation. That's not what I mean in any way, shape, or form. Please don't misquote or misunderstand me. But like Concord was 4 years too late, and they weren't hearing the feedback on it, and so they killed it immediately. I hate that people put work into it. But Astrobot came out, and Game of the Year
won at DICE.
Contender, won at DICE, winning awards. Didn't sell too many, like 1.5 million out of now 75 million confirmed PlayStation 5 shipped. But the game's great, right? And like, I don't know what success means because the game wasn't as big as some others, and I don't actually care. My point is, we often forget that Sony did just put those two games out. One's dead, one's able to be purchased right now. Next to all these remasters that are coming. And so there's a lot to break down in that. And I'd love the chat to weigh in on your thoughts on the state of play. If you're watching the VOD, drop a comment, because there's a lot of ways to approach this one.
I thought that the state of play itself, and I had this conversation over on the Nerd Chat, and I think X Bacon Gaming put a really good spin on it. If this were a Summer Games Fest, this would have been really cool. This would have been really, really good. We would have been looking at it and been like, oh man, that was a lot of games that they threw in there. And they threw a lot of games into this state of play. But if I'm going to a state of play, I'm hoping to get news on Ghost of Yotai. I'm hoping to get news on PlayStation's like games, their games that they're coming out with. Now, we did actually get a couple games announced that do look like they are going to be PlayStation exclusive. Saurus is the next game from Housemarque, which they did Returnal. That is probably going to be a really good game. I'm not sure why they didn't stay within the Returnal like world, but if it is, great. If it isn't, then they've at least carried a lot of the lessons learned from Returnal into Saurus. And I'm kind of surprised because we only got the cinematic trailer, the little teaser for that they're making a game. And I think they need to do more right now. But I don't know that they have anything to be able to do more. So it's kind of a shame that looking at the state of play, had this been an Xbox show where Xbox didn't have any games of their own from their own studios, and it was all just third-party content that you could have like pulled the Sony logo off and slapped the Xbox One onto it, it would have been the same showcase. I think a lot of people would have been like, that was not a good state of play. That was a good like, hey, these are games that are coming out this year. Right. But that like there was no reason for me to see outside of Soros and Days Gone remastered for $10, which I got free through PS Plus. So I'm not even able to upgrade it through that system, unfortunately. But looking at the way that they're doing this, I'm like, man, they do not have any content right now. And I lay the blame down at Jim Ryan for mandating so many live service game projects that all just did not come to fruition. Like none of them have come to fruition. I can't think of, outside of like maybe Helldivers 2. I can't think of any live service game they have started up that has not been canned or failed. And they're behind the 8 ball on this one. I feel for PlayStation fans. I hate the fact that my PlayStation has had nothing justifying me to boot that thing up. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, Astrobot getting the DICE Award and the Game Awards, that is testament to that studio. But it doesn't justify the purchase of a PS5 or even a PS5 Pro.
Yeah. Put a pin right there. Justify purchase of PS5 Pro. Let's talk about that in just a moment. But I do want to shout out Matto1606, good friend of the show, gifting 5 XEP memberships. Thank you so much, helping us get to Summer Game Fest. We appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank you sincerely. Again, I will say humbled, appreciative. Thank you, my friend. Looks like Verge Brizzle, Cesar Severos, Imestein. Don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize. Ray Oid and Richard Omahani. Landing those. I hope you all enjoy that membership, but truly thank you, Matto. We appreciate you, my friend. Justifying your purchase of a PlayStation. This is something that I think is a very interesting conversation because we're seeing console sales go down. We're seeing a lot of industry-wide, the conversation being that like console gaming is not going up. I was fortunate to be on the Gaming Circle podcast with Tico Asante this morning, and it was brought up that the console market has not grown in over a decade. There are only 200 million consoles out there. We just got news that PlayStation has shipped 75 million consoles, sold over 70 million consoles, confirmed that they have shipped 75 million. We have good logistical information that Xbox is around the 30 to 35 million mark in terms of units sold or consoles sold between Series S and X, which is not good at all compared to what it could be. And I find that to be a very big bummer, by the way, because this is their best hardware ever, like bar none, their best hardware ever. And so to loop back to why you should or need to own some of these consoles, I think all of these companies are in their own way, in their own speed, finding out you don't need to own them, that you should be putting your games out on PC day and date. Helldivers being a good example on the Sony side. Xbox has been doing this for a very long time. We just saw Avowed hit #1 on Steam. The game's not even technically out yet because you can play on day one with Game Pass, or you can upgrade and play it early, but that's not day one. Confusing, whatever it might be. The games are doing well over on Steam in the PC space. The Steam Deck, the ROG Ally are bringing people to that ecosystem. So why should you own a PS5 Pro? No idea. Not trying to dunk on PlayStation. Why should you own a PlayStation? You should own a PlayStation for those fantastic exclusives like Spider-Man, like God of War, even though I think those exclusives are less quality than they once were, because God of War Ragnarok, by all intents and purposes, an objectively better game. But my opinion, being not objective, is that Ragnarok wasn't as good. Spider-Man 2, love Spider-Man 2. The story in 1 was better. It felt like it was better. They're putting out these remasters. These are games we've already played. I disagree with you. Put a pin in this for later. I want to come back to this. I love these remasters, by the way. So I know you don't. Let's talk about that. Why do you need a PS5 Pro? You don't. But if you want that fidelity, you've got the money to burn, fine. I don't think they're anticipating selling these things like crazy. But it is confusing to me the direction the industry is going. But I'm also happy that I'm getting more games. So I don't know that there's a thesis in there, Logan.
I see where you're going with wanting to have the better versions of the games. I think my perspective from the Xbox ecosystem, where we have a lot of these kind of like pro features just being added to the game, is something that I would just hope that Sony would do. Like, and speaking to like Days Gone, Days Gone Remastered, unfortunately, is bringing in a small number of quality of life like changes. Like they're adding a horde mode, they're adding different things to the game to actually justify like the remaster of it. But for all intents and purposes, VRR is just something expected on Xbox's side. Like we just expect VRR to be included. A lot of the stuff that they're bringing in is all stuff that you get with the actual like Steam version, and knowing that even the Steam client, the folks that have Days Gone on Steam still have to pay $10 to get this version of it, and a lot of those features were already in the PC version of it. So I'm not sure why folks would be getting the PS5 Pro unless they really do just want to have a more powerful experience for their TV. And I hope that their TVs actually have like the functionality to justify it, because I would hate for folks to buy a PlayStation 5 thinking that their games are going to look better and play better, and then not even get the benefits from it because of the TV that they're using or the cables that they're using, stuff like that. So I'm looking at Sony's state of play, and I'm thinking this is not doing a good enough job to continue to push the PlayStation as a sole console to have. They really needed to have some more updates for the PS2 VR, or no, the PSVR 2, because I didn't see any VR stuff in there. And I'm like, okay, well, still no reason for me to even have a PlayStation VR 2 or PlayStation VR at this point. I might as well just sell mine, put it towards something else.
PlayStation never seems to do a good job giving you reasons to buy their extra. But I was, again, on Asante's show this morning. He brought up the PlayStation Portal. Great. Shout out to BitCloud Gaming in chat. Good to see you, my friend. That was good to see you.
Speaking of.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There you go. But to see, I lost myself. Oh, PlayStation Portal. Like, they had to open up options for that to become a viable device, right?
Which was a smart choice.
A very smart choice. Loved it. Glad they did it, right? I just don't think PlayStation does a good job at justifying their hardware. The counterpoint is, what did I just say 3 minutes ago? 70 million plus sold, 75 million shipped. I don't understand it, and I'm not trying to dunk on it because we are an Xbox adjacent coverage show. I'm confused by it because what do we have now? To loop back to everything. Since Hi-Fi Rush, Xbox has been doing a cadence of games, but they have lacked that big panache, right? Starfield was meant to be the big one. I understand. I get it. But Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom the Dark Ages, Call of Duty. Something else is this year. Fable? Question mark? Fable? Yep.
Fable. Outer Worlds 2, supposedly.
Outer Worlds 2 is in there. And I'll tell you, after playing Avowed, now I need to play Outer Worlds. I hear it's less combat heavy, but I'm still interested. And I can do that with Game Pass.
I will tell you right now, just a small little tangent. Outer Worlds does not have as cool of combat as Avowed does. But the game makes up for its combat with a really interesting reputation system and amazing comedy. Like absolutely amazing comedy. Like it is I enjoyed the comedy as much as I enjoyed the comedy in like High on Life. Yeah, High on Life. The humor's there.
Gotcha. You have the construction going on behind you, and then our new washing machine's real loud. So it's like, here we go.
Oh my God.
But my wife very politely said, lesson learned. I'm sorry, sweetie. It's like, oh, thanks, boo. I thought I was in trouble when I said we can't do that again. Oh wow, that's way loud. That's great. So for the state of play, we've comfortably acknowledged that they did not do a good job justifying PlayStation or doing a good job giving Sony first party stuff. But in the year of the ninja, Shinobi is there. What was it? Onimusha was there. I'm excited because also I'm loving Ninja Gaiden 2, almost done. Garcia in chat reminded me about Towerborn. Thank you, my friend. A lot of ninja stuff, which I'm cool with. And we did a preview for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I almost thought I was embargoed on that one, but I'm not. I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm digging
Yeah.
all this ninja stuff.
Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Call of Duty.
Just got TMNT DLC. Like, yeah, COD's back on the menu suddenly. I'm like, oh. Well, no, I will tell you, like, I'm apparently not the only one, by the way, that bowed out of Black Ops 6. Is that game struggling?
No, I mean they just have
because
they have a
like
Terminators. They have a Terminator event going on right now with like old school 1980s Arnie in there.
Love that. But I mean, like, en masse, because you know how like these live service black hole games, like they have their own communities, right? Like Destiny and Rivals and Fortnite. Like you don't see them in commonality here. But among the community, are people happy with Black Ops? I heard somebody told me that like, oh, it's not doing well. Is that true, or am I just hearing that?
To be perfectly honest, I look at Call of Duty the same way other people look at Sea of Thieves. Other people can look into Sea of Thieves and just be like, the game's awesome. It's so much fun. I look at Sea of Thieves and I'm like, oh my God, they just screwed up another thing on the voyage. Like, come on, guys, it's not that hard. So when I look at Call of Duty, I'm like, dude, I don't know. I go in, I play, I have fun. I don't see the issues. I don't know what the community is up to. The lobbies are full, and I don't have to report as many people for stuff anymore. So for me, Call of Duty is working fantastic. But I would consider myself a pretty casual person when it comes to like that. I'm not playing ranked. I'm not like trying to min max anything. I'm not running optimal loadouts. I'm trying to get my camos, and I'm checking the store for free gifts.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Nerd chat saying they can't wait for TMNT. I'm very interested to see, because like TMNT and Fortnite works really well. Like they look fantastic. They're among my favorite skins. Fortnite just does a good job with that kind of art style and translating it. And COD did Shredder a few years back, or a year or two ago. I loved COD's Fallout and Godzilla stuff. Thought they did a great job there. Their horror stuff was really good. But how does TMNT fit in? I'm just curious. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Xbox has a lot coming out this year. Sony sure doesn't.
So I attribute this, like going from like Call of Duty casual to like to back into hardware. At the end of the day, PlayStation has numbers on its side because it has done an exceptional job of its naming conventions. The PlayStation 6 is going to be better than the PlayStation 5, which was better than the PlayStation 4. And you just have generations and generations of very casual gamers who are playing Call of Duty, who are playing GTA 5, who are playing WWE games, who are playing like college football games, who are just jumping into the staples of gaming, the things that people pick up on an annual basis. Those gamers don't need multiple consoles, and they don't need to switch ecosystems. They're familiar with the dual stick controller, or the dual sense controller. They're familiar with the dual shock. You're just you have this indoctrination for people who are in the PlayStation ecosystem. And unless you are going to be more of a hardcore gamer, or a gamer that is like tuned into like news and information about games, most people are going to buy a PlayStation, because that is like, they're not going to buy a Nintendo because Nintendo hasn't got what they want. And they don't care what anyone else has, because PlayStation is still around, and PlayStation is still offering like all of that stuff. So they're going to look at it and be like, well, I got my Call of Duty. I got, that's why like we were so like, dude, Xbox could really do some major upsets in the community if they made Call of Duty exclusive, but they would loot buckets of money to do that.
If I mentioned this morning on the Gaming Circle, and I will say it again here. They are such a powerful publisher that I want to see them throw that weight around a bit. And I don't know what the right way to do is, because had they taken Indiana Jones, Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom, everything but COD, because they said in the FTC filing that they would not put it there, and made them exclusive, would they sell more Xboxes? I think the answer is yes. The no part is they would not sell enough Xboxes, because this market has not grown in over a decade. And so how do they find a way to figure it out? They had to go multi-platform. And the answer why you need to own an Xbox is Game Pass. And I have no qualms with getting a device that has Game Pass, has the games, my library, my achievements, my memories all together, coalesce there. But if they want to sell that game somewhere else, fine. It's just like Apple putting their shows on other services. It's just like Paramount Plus putting their shows on other services or selling them a la carte. Rock on. Do it. If that keeps it alive, if that means I get more of what I like, I am okay with it. And that is in the last 2 years mentality that I have adopted. Maybe I've matured, maybe I've accepted fate, and whatever it is, what I like is my achievements, my memories, the legacy I've built is not going away, because Xbox is not going away. So that is the part that I latch onto. What I don't enjoy is when people want to act like, oh, PlayStation sold 70 million, success. Xbox sold 30 million, failure. It doesn't work like that anymore. It hasn't for a while. And I also don't think we should care so much about whether or not they're successful. I don't give a shizzle how much Apple is selling or how much Android / Google or Samsung are selling. I just want to use the device that I want to use and have access to my stuff. And that is just where we are ending up in gaming. Just a modern version of that.
I want to pose the hypothetical out there that at the end of the day, I think that a lot of Xbox fans go to Xbox for certain franchises, but for all intents and purposes, most of us are going for Game Pass, and Game Pass is giving us that ability to get a lot of games that we didn't have to buy in that service. The perk of that is that we get our content anywhere. And one of the things that was interesting about Avowed is Avowed, for all intents and purposes, is now available even on Battle Pass, battle.net, which is Blizzard's kind of like game launcher on PC. You can still play Avowed through there. And it looks like they're probably going to be doing that in the future. They're probably going to expand that functionality. You can play Avowed on cloud, but not X Cloud.
Aren't they using like NVIDIA or something?
They're using NVIDIA's GeForce Now for that. But I also kind of wonder if maybe that's for the time being, and when the game launches like proper for Game Pass, it might then
day one on Game Pass.
Yeah, day one on Game Pass. But I think they're going to Xbox because of those perks, whereas most PlayStation gamers, for one, they have like a history with their trophies, which I think is important enough for them to justify like why they stay in that ecosystem. But I also think that is where most people they have one console, they have it on their main TV, and they don't necessarily hop around from room to room or device to device. I think that's why the Portal has done so well, is because they're starting to see like people want to do gaming outside of just the main TV, whereas most PlayStation gamers, I would surmise, have just the one TV in their living room, and that's where most people hang out. Most people want to sit down and they've got their whole setup there, as opposed to weirdos like me who have an Xbox here, an Xbox in the other room, my PC gaming rig, my Logitech G Cloud over on the little thing here in the background. Like there's weirdos who have like multiple systems and ways to access that content. I have my other Xbox right here in my hand, so it's like there's so many places that I can access my content, and that's what excites me about my Xbox ecosystem. Whereas if I was just a one TV console gamer, I would probably be happy like with just, it's time to go sit down in the living room, put my headphones on, and enjoy the one game system that I have, and this handles everything. I don't do gaming anywhere else in the house.
You're making a lot of sense, which means no one's going to listen to you, but I like the logic.
That's good. No one should listen to this sweet silky voice.
Oh God. Both confused and never mind. Let's see here. Oh, I do want to acknowledge Jez Corden's article before we bow out today. So real quick, anyone in the live chat, if you have questions for us, send them. We would appreciate you.
I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, thank you. So Jez Corden published an article recently, and the core premise of that article was kind of adjacent to what we've been saying, in that Xbox is basically publishing more games on PlayStation this year than PlayStation is, and there's some wiggle room in that, but basically yes. And he also noted, and it was kind of nestled in there, that Xbox has moved past the early stages for pitching a new console to their leadership, and it has been fully approved and costed by Microsoft. Again, I'm not a business analyst, and frankly, those analysts are wrong a lot, and I honestly don't care. But it was neat to see. I feel like we've been hearing this as just more confirmation that Xbox is continuing to exist in the market. But I do think it is just a fascinating conversation to see, as I said earlier, the steady cadence of games that Xbox has had since Hi-Fi Rush versus the slowdown that PlayStation's been hit by, the remaster sequelitis, the closing of some games being Concord and stuff. It's just interesting to compare them, that Xbox, I feel like they have to justify making the new platform, whereas there is no doubt that PlayStation will be making the new platform. They're making PlayStation 6, right? But as Xbox is like, yeah, we're definitely going to do it. And we're all like, oh, okay, cool. And for us, it's the question of, is it a handheld? Is it a hybrid? Is it a box? Is it like, what is it? What are you going to do? Because like Switch 2's big thing is that it can be a mouse. Ain't nobody going to use that. That's going to be like a first month. Everyone's going to make their videos, and then like nobody's going to do that again.
Never know, man.
I know.
Nintendo's weird. Nintendo is so weird. It may end up being like the way to play first person shooters on Switch. We have no idea.
The Wii U, Labo, how many arms? Like, I'm just saying, like, just because it's Nintendo doesn't mean it's successful. It's like when people are like, Marvel Rivals because of Marvel. It's like, nah, fam. We've seen so many superhero games die. Like, just because it's Nintendo doesn't mean people want it.
No, but it will mean that it will do something that no one else is willing to do, and they will still succeed regardless.
Gotcha. Can you hear my washing machine, by the way?
No, I can't.
Okay, good, because it's really pissing me off.
Oh, Luke, it's fine. No, it's not a big deal. Hey, look, we're professional podcasters. We just roll with it at this point. Right. It's really interesting to me to look at the financials, because now's the end of the quarter, so everyone's putting out their financials. All the companies are justifying their growth or loss to all the shareholders, who are all just sitting there being like, I don't care, I want my dividends, make more money. And Bobby Kotick's over there saying like, I would have just stripped everyone of everything and just let AI do it all for me. But I look at like what PlayStation's money brackets are, like where they get their money from. And it's not physical sales, I'll tell you that. So anyone hoping that physical is going to stick around, I do not think next generation is going to have disk drives at all at this point. I've lost hope for that. But I think that the interesting thing here was digital downloads and add-on content were the two main drivers above hardware and physical sales. And to me, the way I read into that, and this is a layman looking at it, is add-ons are like microtransactions, and more games are making money through microtransactions. We were just talking about Call of Duty and TMNT, all the cool stuff that Fortnite and stuff have done with that. Add-on content through microtransactions is making a lot more money than actual main game sales. So what I'm seeing here is that even if Microsoft decides to forgo hardware, which I don't think they will, I think they like having hardware as kind of like a, I don't know, like the way Apple says, like the best experience for, using your phone is through Apple ecosystem, and you'd want to get your phone, you'd want to get a watch, you'd want to get a laptop, everything is through their ecosystem. I think Xbox has the same mentality, because I do think it works. I think having all that stuff connected up makes sense. But I will say that Xbox is probably going to make more money as a publisher than they were as a hardware manufacturer.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think because of that, I think Jez is right in seeing like how things are going to play out, because I do not think that Xbox is necessarily going to be looking at how many more console generations are they going to continue, especially if people like Phil Spencer step down and retire. Because I would say that Phil Spencer is probably one of those few people who are looking at Satya Nadella and being like, AI is probably not what we want to do with Xbox. And we probably want to stick with hardware. And Satya Nadella is looking at this like, why don't we have everything everywhere? Why don't we have AI pushing out more stuff? And it's like, gross.
One thing about Phil, like, I think people evangelize him unfairly and they expect him to be someone that he is not. I mean, he's a millionaire. He's running a company that's $1 billion company. He's doing all these types of things. He's sitting at a board where trillions of dollars are on the line. Like that is the world that he operates in. But he does go home and play video games. And so that's where we find our commonality with him. What are you doing with your lighting? That's very strange.
Nothing.
So, you're lying. So that's where I think people find comfort with him. And I would agree. I've met him once, interacted with him twice. Like we had this cool in the Monster Hunter Wilds preview where I was like, oh my God, I turned because I was like so impressed with something on screen. He looked back at me. He's like, I know. And I was like, whoa, hi Phil. You know, like, and Maximilian dude sitting next to me. It was this funny event. And I think with Phil, you have that seeming camaraderie, right? You feel like you could play a game with him, right?
Yeah.
He's still a politician to a point. But when I see Sarah Bond, I think the jury is still out. Like, I truly don't know if she's a gamer. When I did get a chance to meet her, she was extremely polite, very nice, willing to take a picture. But that's what a good politician would do also. I'm sure she's brilliant, right? Like, you don't get to be that level, whatnot. I'm sure she's brilliant. I don't know if she's playing games and fighting for the gamer. And I'm not saying she's not, because I do not know. But like when I look at Jim Ryan, that man did not give a one hoot about any gamer. When I looked at Bobby Kotick, who's sitting with Elon and driving swastika cars, like he's a terrible human and doesn't care one bit about the gamer. Yeah. I feel like Phil cares. I think it's possible Sarah cares. I just don't know, right? That's the difference. Like when I think of Vince Zampella, I feel like Vince Zampella over at Respawn and EA cares about a gamer. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my butt. And like, if I am, I will gladly correct later on.
Perspective is reality in this instance. Like what we see from Phil doing is, we see his gamer score going up. We see like, what he's playing. And, he talks about, he's like, dude,
do you think he's paying someone to play games for him? No,
I don't. Yeah, that would be who does that? Nobody does that. Shout out to the DICE Awards, by the way. That was a really good
Greg. Oh, Greg, well done.
What I want to say over the construction that's going on is that with Phil, we see comments come out from him from time to time that is very corporate. That is very like, we're going to start with 4 games and we're going to see how that goes. And then later on, he's like, there's no red line. Anything could possibly go over to PlayStation at this point. It doesn't matter. But then I also hear him say, I was really worried about going back and playing Ninja Gaiden 2 because if somebody looked at my activity, they might start to wonder if there's something going on there. And he quickly turned off his profile so that no one could see him playing Ninja Gaiden 2. And it's stuff like that I'm like, yeah, he's excited about the projects that he's bringing to Xbox. And as someone, whether it's a hardware manufacturer or a publisher, that excites me because I want someone who's invested in getting experiences that they want to see to the ecosystem so that I can enjoy those as well too and have them be varied for more than just myself.
Yep. Oh man, Logan, I feel like we have covered a gambit today. We have covered a lot of topics. Is there something we have not touched on, want to talk about?
There's a game that I'm curious to know if you are going to jump into.
Okay.
And that is Splitgate 2.
Splitgate.
This is that Halo game,
right?
The portal mechanics,
right?
And the second iteration. Now I know you're a huge Halo fan.
Die Hard. Yep.
You love your gameplay for Halo. The combat in this is effectively Halo, but it's adding tactical strategy through the portal system that I don't think that you've really experienced with Splitgate 1. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I didn't play Splitgate 1, or at least don't remember it.
You've stretched yourself this year in the last year, last 6 months, as you mentioned at the start of the episode. I would urge you to check out. The alpha is coming February 27th, and I
Okay.
think that you'd enjoy it, and I think that you'd have fun and get some real kind of like dopamine hits for outthinking someone with a portal system and getting like that good shot in the back using like shooting through a portal. So I would be curious to hear your thoughts on that, and if you've given that any like love or attention.
I have never once thought about playing Splitgate. I've seen it and written it off immediately because black hole games, like I already had to put down COD in order to play Fortnite and Rivals, and there was one. What was our other black hole game? We had one more. Wasn't Sea of Thieves. It was something.
Well, I mean, you've missed out on 2 seasons of Diablo 4.
That might have been basically like live service. Like it's not possible to keep up with them and do the reviews that we've been trying to do between hardware. We did the headset and Steam Deck, and one of the VR headset, the audio headset, the Steam Deck. You did 2 controllers, a headset. I don't know. It's all running together. It was not possible to keep up with the black hole games, plus the previews that we were doing and such. So I don't know if I'll even have time because you're doing a preview. I'm working on a review / video / impression because this game is out of my wheelhouse, but I'm fascinated by it. Yeah. And there's a lot coming. Freight Conductor in our chat, by the way, a great community member in our Discord also. Splitgate was actually really fun. It didn't stay in rotation long, but it was a really fun month. Maybe it'll be that for me. You know?
I think you'd like it. I think you should give it a chance because I think that the mechanics are fresh.
Okay.
But with the gameplay of like Halo.
At the risk of sounding like Captain America, I'll add it to the list. Splitgate.
Which shout out to Captain America. I really wanted that new one to be good, and the reviews on that, the score is so low that I'm so trepidatious about spending a bunch of money going to the theaters.
Don't get stuck on a score. We just talked all about that.
I know that's the joke.
However, okay, gotcha. But I don't go to theaters most of the time.
I know
because I don't want to spend the money. It's
kids, weird smells.
Yeah,
sticky floors.
But I will say, stoked to see Sam Wilson as Cap. I don't like that he's called Cap. I don't like when characters make that name. Like Nightwing can't be Batman. I don't like when that happens. Like because they do that in continuity sometimes. So to me, he's still Falcon. But I love Sam Wilson as a character. Dig it. I'm excited for it. Interested in the movie. If you've not watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that show is good.
It's really good.
It's really good. And I have not watched again the movie, but I hope they really did touch on because like at the end when they started talking about what it meant to be American and what it meant for him to be Captain America as a black man holding the shield, blonde hair, blue eyed guy prior. Like I hope they took more of that, but I hear that it's more just an action fun popcorn flick. That said, I enjoy action fun popcorn flicks and I'll watch that. I love Sam Wilson as a character, so cool. Rock on.
I'm totally fine with Falcon becoming Captain America, and they can call him Cap all they want. I think if he takes on the shield, then he's willing to accept the responsibility, and that's important to the character. I don't necessarily care who does that as long as the moral integrity is there. And I think Sam Wilson was like a good choice. Even if it was like kind of you would hope that like Bucky could have that redemption arc, but that's okay. I'm totally fine with Falcon getting it.
It's kind of like I said, Dick Grayson putting on the cowl for Batman I don't like it. I preferred him being so Nightwing weird. Because he grew into his own character. And
don't like Nightwing.
I love Nightwing. But I always like when oh my God, Connor Kent becomes Superman. Like, no, you're not Superman. Shut up. But like, it's okay. Like, I get the storytelling part. It's just that to me, they're always the character I first saw them as.
Yeah.
You know, with the one exception being Dick Grayson, you're not Robin anymore. And so, like, you know, I get it, but that's here nor there. It's never because of some dumb reason that people make up. Like, I love Sam Wilson. He's a dope character. So, but I also don't like this new Iron Man. Never mind. No. All right. Logan, what do you got coming up for us, buddy?
Keelhauled's coming out Monday as usual. We just got a new voyage, so I'll be diving into my thoughts and feelings on that. Season 15's kicking up on the 20th, so we'll be talking more about that and the new pig pet that you can get. Outside of that, there's a preview that I just signed up for that I'm looking forward to covering, but we can't say anything more until the actual, like, when that actually comes to things. So I think people
Pretty
will
big
be
game though. We're excited about that.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm super excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, all right, well, we have to wait, patiently waiting, stuff in the pipeline that we're working on that I'm looking forward to. Outside of that, that's it. I'm just playing through Avowed, looking forward to the spoiler cast. Don't forget about that coming up on Monday. We'll have that. Definitely hold off if you haven't played through the game. We don't want anyone spoiled. I don't want anyone losing some of those moments and experiences for yourself. But keep it in the back pocket so that you can hear the conversation and have it along with us when you do finish it.
Yep. There you go. If you haven't already, please go check out the Avowed review. Leave a comment and a like. Helps me out a lot. Same thing. I'll echo the spoiler cast element of it. And working on something else that we're not allowed to say we're playing. So we'll see.
Busy,
but in a good way. And I hope this is one of the things I'm not working on is South of Midnight. I hope I get to echo the activity with Avowed that I got to do for Avowed with South of Midnight, because I would love to interview that team also. So.
Yeah.
All righty, friends. Thank you guys for listening this week. Thank you for watching this week. Thank you to James Suddy for the super chat, Matto16 for the gifted subs, and Addy0 for the super chat as well. We appreciate you. Thank you to all our patrons for supporting us, helping us get to Summer Game Fest. Have a fantastic rest of your week, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
It's not letting me leave.
Oh, well, that's not good. You want me to click it? Okay, I can click
it. I just hit the wrong
button. But
button.
I want to click it.
Do it.